Meeting has been start.
I'm ready.
Yeah, waiting. Let Bipin announce. Bipin tell.
Prakash, we can start now. Yeah, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. And this is the Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya mission on national mission for training the trainers. And what we have here is President of Broadband India Forum, Mr. TV Srinivasan,
Ramachandran.
TV Ramachandran, sorry, TV Ramachandran, who is going to lead the broadband forum on the topic, which is to ensure that we have a think tank of digital transformation. And his background is very interesting, and I will just give some information about it. Known in industry as TV, has been in mobile telecommunication services in India since inception in 1994. Started as CEO of Delhi Cellular, Sterling Cellular Limited, a predecessor to what is now known as Vodafone India. After establishing and commissioning the largest network of that time in India, TV went on to set up the industry body COAI, which soon became the credible and respected voice for the industry. After 12 years as Director General of COAI, during which period he helped resolve many of the challenges before the fledgling sector, he went on back to Vodafone India Limited and its resident director, handling regulatory affairs and government relations, and helped establish his function in VIL, and one of the best in the industry. Uh, he was chairman of the National Telecommunication Council Association, Assocham, and one of the leading chambers of India for 5 years from 2010 to 15. At this time, he is the president of Broadband Forum and manages the relations with different industry players, including the 5G players like Kiran Kuchi, uh, who released yesterday the information about the 5G 7.2 split. And so we know him to be one of the excellent leader, and a very, very systematic approach he goes through, and look forward to his presentation to the faculty development program, which is for the faculty and the research associates who are associated with the PM-NMM, that is Madan Mohan Malviya mission on national teaching the training the teachers. So with that, I will give the floor to uh, TVR. Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours to take.
Thank you, Mr. Ramachandran, for those overkind remarks. And good morning, distinguished professors, faculty members, research associates, students, and other ladies and gentlemen. I feel really privileged and delighted to have this opportunity to speak at this distinguished gathering in the famous Ramanujan College associated with Deshbandhu College, University of Delhi. I wish to particularly thank Mr. Prakash Ramachandran, member of the program committee, and Mr. Vipin Rathi for inviting me and facilitating this interaction and enabling me to share a few views on DTC transformation, as you call it. This is transformation through data centers, telcos, and communication. Being from Broadband India Forum, which is a think tank for digital transformation, it is indeed a great honor to be asked to share thoughts on this subject, which is so close to our heart. At the outset, I would like to place a couple of clear disclaimers. Number one, I'm not a technologist. Yes, I happen to be a physicist and an honorary fellow of the Institution of Engineering and Technology, London, but I'm not a technologist per se. So please take me as a non-technology person. Secondly, to paraphrase some favorite lines of mine from Frances Cairncross, many of you would have read her Death of Distance, written a long time ago, nearly maybe 20 years ago or so. And I'm paraphrasing her, taking full liberty in that. My talk is not going to be about the future of technology. And I think that is just as well, because history in telecom is littered with examples of people who have guessed wrongly, who have predicted wrongly. Either they expected great things of a technology that proved to be a dead end or a blind alley, or more often they failed to spot the successes. For example, the personal computer, the home fax, the mobile phone, the internet itself, all of them would have been lying by the wayside, unnoticed by the pundits, till consumers grabbed them. So what matters most about a new technology is not how it works, but how people use it, how policymakers facilitate it, and the changes it brings about in human lives, about its usability per se. Hence, in my talk today, I will not talking so much about the technical side of technologies involved in digital transformation. I think you're all experts in that. I think you know far more about it than I could even start to imagine. So I think that is, I would take it as read, done. I would talk more about how policy can optimize it for the benefit of the common man and users in the context of India, and how the usability can be enhanced and our way forward, a possible way forward on the DTC highway, or what you call it, digital highway that we have embarked on. And as Cairncross again put it very eloquently, the communication revolution is all about opportunity and increasing human connect. It will be easier than ever for people to turn connections into business initiatives. And my endeavor would be to share some thoughts on all these aspects. Thirdly, I am of the view that digital transformation is a very live being. It's a continuously evolving entity. There is no discrete or time-based one-time solutions on it. With technology constantly evolving, it is but natural also that digital transformation is also of a continuously transforming nature. We have to understand and adapt that, otherwise we'll fail in whatever we undertake to do. And I make that humble submission that we should adapt ourselves accordingly. For example, today, at one time, voice connectivity was a thing to talk about. That's all passé. Today, nobody takes it. Today, it's all about data connectivity, and not even data connectivity, a high-speed data connectivity, a broadband connectivity. Soon, you may find there is not even broadband. People are going to ask for a virtualized interaction, 3D plus AI plus VR plus AR, what is now being referred to as metaverse interaction. So things are constantly changing. So in today's talk, before I get into the subject per se, I propose to take first a few minutes to introduce to you all Broadband India Forum, the organization which I represent. It will be just about 2-3 slides, but I request your kind indulgence to understand that, because I think that has a large bearing on our perspectives, the perspectives which I will try to put forward towards digital transformation. Following the introduction to BIF, I've got about 5 sections covering different aspects of the technologies that I wish to discuss with you all. And I must admit that this is an invitation to talk like I have never had before in my career. Because for the first time I've been told you take as much time as you want, not a 15-minute, 20-minute or half an hour, not even 1 hour. Mr. Prakash Ramachandran said even 1.5 hours if you want. But I don't want to use that as a blank check to bore you all to death. So please rest assured that I'll try to be as fast as I can to do justice to the subject. One more initial thought in the context of the discussion of digital infrastructure in today's environment. One must appreciate that COVID-19 has proved beyond doubt that digital equality has a direct impact on social equality. And that's what concerns you, me, everybody. And you youngsters passing out of exams, you professors and teachers who are molding people for that, you research associates who are working towards it. So we all have to realize that this is only a means for social equality. And it has been proved beyond doubt that we could not have survived the pandemic without the support we had from digital communications. And the adoption of digital services increased remarkably during this COVID period. However, while it increased, it also widened the digital divide between those who have and those who have not. So that is a real problem in India and in many other countries. However, despite all these noteworthy achievements, and despite all the push towards digital India and the government's great endeavors in this area, India's ranking in terms of global internet quality remains quite low. As per the studies conducted by the Economist Intelligence Unit, EIU, you would have all heard about it. And what they have is an inclusive internet index, III. India ranks 49th globally. It's not something to be proud of. And it shows the tremendous scope and opportunities in the area. You all should see this as an opportunity, not see it as a negative, but something where you all can contribute through research, through work, through studies, through preparation for your career ahead. This index, the III index, provides a rigorous benchmark of national level internet inclusion across 4 categories: availability, affordability, relevance, and readiness. And our ranking on availability is as low as 77. Overall is 49. But on availability of internet everywhere, it is 77. India's glaring underperformance on this pillar is obviously a function of the availability of digital infrastructure and internet access across the country. With these few words, please permit me to start my presentation.
Yes, sir, you are allowed. So can you share this?
Thank you. So the contents are, like I said, about 5 sections per se, and about BIF first. And the 5 substantive sections are those concerning digital infrastructure, public Wi-Fi, PM-WANI, unlicensed spectrum, private network, Statcom, because I was sort of indicated that I could talk about these in the time allotted to me. What is BIF, Broadband India Forum? It is probably the only one of its kind in India. It's an independent policy forum and think tank for digital transformation. It is not an industry body. Let me first confess that I cannot claim to be an industry body. It is an independent policy forum and think tank. Its core principles are digital inclusion, connecting the unconnected, holistic development, technology neutrality, service neutrality. All these are articles of faith in us. And some focus areas are high priorities given for facilitating startups, MSMEs. And for example, recently we have launched a Bif Connectivity Accelerator program which is aimed at facilitating the PM-WANI and public Wi-Fi program across the country. And we are aiming to take on board over 109 PDOAs, as you might have heard of them, public data office aggregators. And we want to give a big impetus to this great initiative of the government. Another thrust area is satellite technology. Third one is skilling, MOU with TSSC, Telecom Sector Skill Council, which is also participating in this program of yours. And then we believe in support for all government initiatives in broadband, Digital India, Broadband for All, PM-WANI, Public Wi-Fi, Startup India, Make in India. Yesterday, for example, we had a very vibrant and successful webinar on Startup India to showcase some of the successes in startups in India, digital communication, who are all incidentally also members of BIF. And presiding over those were two special guests of honor, the chairman and MD of Invest India, Mr. Deepak Bagla, and the DDG in charge of standards, research, innovation, and DOT, Department of Telecommunications, Mr. Kishore Babu, both top experts in this area. So our objective is to promote broadband for all, as I said, in a service agnostic, technology agnostic manner, and make contributions to policies and regulations of the government for India. We are a professional body. We function through as many as 16 committees or so, 15, 16 committees, continuously growing, very specialist committees, very active, each one of which meets at least once, if not more, per quarter, and each one of which comes out with some good quality white paper or research paper during the year. Some examples of some of the reports, a few examples, all of them are on our website. You can go to our website and check. It's listed here on the website. One of the recent ones was unpacking social and economic gains from encryption, particularly dynamic encryption, end-to-end encryption, which is an important thing for privacy and etc., confidentiality. So we have various subjects and various white papers. That was about BIF. Coming to the main theme of the day, which is infrastructure, digital infrastructure, I will be talking. My entire story is about digital infrastructure. The other 4 or 5 elements are all elements in this story, chapters in this story. So digital infrastructure, we would first like to submit. You might all have heard, of course, you all know digital infrastructure, but unfortunately, the general perception about understanding about digital infrastructure, digital infrastructure, that means having a lot of towers, a lot of fiber. Yes, they are very important, but not all. What we need to appreciate is that digital infrastructure comprises of many important elements. OFC undersea cable, public Wi-Fi, Statcom, data centers, E and V band spectrums, towers. So it's a very, very, very complex and all-encompassing idea of digital infrastructure. And this, it is not my opinion, it is as per the definition of the world's apex body for telecom, which is, as you all know, ITU, International Telecommunications Union, Geneva. They have defined it, and that quote is here. You can check it out later. Our National Digital Communications Policy, which is the ruling policy of the day, 2018, that also includes all these. So we have to recognize that holistic view of digital infrastructure and not get lost in individual elements. There is a famous saying in English, a proverb, which says, you tend to lose sight of the forest by looking at the trees only. So we should not look only at individual elements and lose sight of the overall picture, the big picture about having robust digital infrastructure for the common man, for the country, for the economy. First, let me talk about public Wi-Fi PM-WANI. What is Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is, the technical name is 802.11. That is a basic standard for Wi-Fi, evolved by IEEE. And many people mistakenly think that Wi-Fi stands for wireless fidelity. That's a common mistake made by many. I would like to correct that. If any of you have that impression, Wi-Fi does not stand for that. It does not stand for wireless fidelity. Wi-Fi was a brand name, a marketing name coined by an agency to popularize 802.11. And somehow that has caught on. There is no problem in that, as long as we recognize that that is the thing. And 802.11, when it came, it is a family of standards which is continually evolving and developing. Like I said, digital transformation itself is evolving and developing. 802.11, newer and newer standards, higher levels are coming. I'm not going to go into details. 2.4 gigahertz was the first common one, then 5 gigahertz only, then 2.4 and 5 gigahertz together, wider channels to get greater reliability, speeds, download capability. We went from 20 megahertz to 40 megahertz to 60 megahertz to 80 megahertz. 160 megahertz is now commonly talked about with the higher bands, and even 240, 320. As you all know, probably, a recent development of more than just about a year or so ago, FCC launched this 1200 megahertz initiative for Wi-Fi. And that's a great initiative, Wi-Fi 6E, and that can support 320 megahertz. So that's a fantastic throughput and quality of speed, which is very essential for 5G, to support 5G downloads. All these are given in details here. I will not take time on these things. You probably know of them. It only shows a progression, the development of Wi-Fi standards. It has not remained static. From Wi-Fi 4, that is 2009, 802.11n, it has now come to Wi-Fi 7, which is knocking on the doors, expected to be there by 2024, estimated 2024. And today we are on Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E, which is 11AX. What about, where does Wi-Fi stand in terms of world adoption of that? It's one thing to talk of standards, one thing to talk of development, but how is the world taking up? How are the consumers taking it up? Like I said, it all depends on how consumers adopt a standard. And you'll be glad to know that across the world today, there are more than 650 million, that is 65 crores, 650 million Wi-Fi hotspots, public Wi-Fi hotspots. Mark you, this is not private Wi-Fi which you have from a service provider, a telco in your house. That is only for that person, for that subscriber, that location. Public Wi-Fi hotspot is one which is readily accessible by the public, irrespective of which service provider you belong to. So that makes a very big difference. And like that, there are 650 million Wi-Fi hotspots. Unfortunately, India has barely 5 lakh, not even 500,000, that is 0.5 million against 650 million public Wi-Fi hotspots as of 2021. And as of 2016, the global average, if we talk of per population, the above 650 million worked out to one hotspot for every 150 persons. Every 150 persons could have a public Wi-Fi hotspot. And for India to reach that global average of one hotspot for 150, simple division by our population, you will see that at least 8 million hotspots were required. And NDCP 2018 has laid down a target of 10 million hotspots by 2022. We have to go a long way on that. And that's a huge opportunity for you youngsters who can soon be entrepreneurs, you researchers also. So this is the opportunity. I've shown it in the table how the other countries are faring and how we are positioned against the global average. So if we are at a level index of 1, the global average is 197. That means, ladies and gentlemen, we are not even 0.5% of the world average, not even 0.5%. That is a terrific opportunity for you all. And the importance of public Wi-Fi for India, for digital India, is because it will give you seamless and affordable connectivity, particularly in rural areas. You all know that. Cater to high capacity video downloads. Video is demanding more and more of bandwidth. And you're all struggling with it. When you use only mobile, you all know your limitation. It depends on so many factors, on the spectrum available, the proximity of the tower, how many persons are right then on that tower. So too many variables are involved. That's worldwide, that's a characteristic. It's a part of the physics of mobile. You cannot get a better performance from that in that sense. So for high capacity video downloads, and mark you, today in the rural area itself, India is having video content forming 60 to 80% of the usage. Because the rural person actually needs video much more than you and me. We literate persons do not need that. We can do by browsing, by text. But because in the rural area, that's a crunch area, they need video. And that is running very, very high, putting a big crunch on bandwidth. And that is not available in mobile. It has to come from public Wi-Fi hotspots. And this is being accentuated more and more by the move to 4G and 5G. And you all know that 4K quality video is also coming. Standard definition to high definition is the norm. Everybody is wanting more and more of the better. So offloading of data traffic to Wi-Fi hotspots, which is called mobile data offload, will complement mobile broadband. By doing so, you are conserving precious mobile spectrum to provide greater efficiencies and better quality to the mobile consumers who are on the move, who need it. But you and I know that 80% of the data consumption is inside buildings. 80% of data consumption is within buildings, not on the move. So why don't we let that happen? Give them good quality while they're on the move by having more public Wi-Fi and offloading data when mobility is not required. So this is going to become a big revenue opportunity for all if you go through this provider, go through this avenue. And what would be the key drivers for public Wi-Fi? Why did it not take off in India earlier? For 2-3 reasons. Number one, in India, the framework earlier was that it should only be done by telcos, and that remained a few number. So a handful of people, 3 or 4, cannot cater to the diversity and size of India. And they would obviously concentrate more on the creamy layer in the urban area. So that is natural. You can't blame them for that. But that is not required if you want, that is not possible to continue if you want public service. So what we needed was to open up, to liberalize the market. And that's what the government has done through PM-WANI and liberalized Wi-Fi policy. Now, anybody, you and I can get into it. You can become a PDOA, set up PDO. You can set up PDO hotspots. You can set up aggregate through PDOAs, and then link up with the carrier or the telco to haul the data. So the telco also will get revenue. He also win-win. You're also on win-win. Customer is on a win-win. That's the most important. As far as we are concerned in BIF, we aim to see if the customer wins, you and I win. If the customer is not going to win, then you and I cannot win. So we have to simplify customer login authentication, which was earlier a problem. But in the PM-WANI architecture, that makes it very user-friendly. You don't have to log in every time, authenticate every time. We've got very easy payment mechanism integrated with UPI. UPI is one of the biggest successes of the world. India has shown an example to the entire world in what it can do. And that is a great thing which is available. Then roaming across Wi-Fi networks and later between Wi-Fi and cellular also will be made possible. So this gives a fair, transparent and competitive regulatory framework also for service providers. So this is a result of a very fine, elaborate consultation by TRAI, process mooted with a light touch policy and a licensing framework launched by the Department of Telecommunications under the PM-WANI policy. This is a policy. It shows the architecture. I won't dwell on this. I've talked enough about it. There will be PDOs who all link up, who aggregate through the PDOA. A PDOA is very, very vital for this architecture because he is the aggregator, like a Ola or a Uber or Airbnb. And that's what has made them all successful. So the aggregator takes care of collecting the PDOs traffic and delivering to TSPs. The TSPs get the data charges, they win. So everybody wins in this. And there is a central registry which takes care of all the authentication, etc. So, there is an app which enables all this, which is housed on the phone. So it's a very innovative architecture, the like of which is probably the first in the world, which came up from TRAI and fine-tuned by the Department of Telecommunications and launched. But a few things are still to be done to boost PM-WANI, which will happen as we go along. More of customer awareness, because customers are not aware in India. They have been all used for 20, 30 years to private Wi-Fi, and they don't realize that it is possible to have public Wi-Fi. But people who are traveling abroad are now seeing it, that it is happening in every other country. Why is it not happening in India? So that is one. Cost of bandwidth was earlier is still high if you look at it from a wholesale point of view. So wholesale plans have to be made available. Incentivization of end user through direct benefit transfer. That is also possible today through the systems we have. And whatever possible, all help to the accelerator concept, aggregator concept. And our Bif Connectivity Accelerator program is aimed at promoting all these things. And that's underway. Every Saturday, we are having a webinar attended by all interested parties. You're all welcome to join. Connected to the subject of Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, is the subject of unlicensed spectrum. Because as you all know, Wi-Fi requires unlicensed spectrum. It cannot have licensed spectrum. Licensed spectrum is the preserve of the telcos. And they have special rights, a whole basket of rights, various rights and obligations, and they can get spectrum through auction. It requires very deep pockets. You and I don't have deep pockets, but we want to provide this service. And that's possible. World over, it is recognized through unlicensed spectrum, which first started at 2.4 gigahertz, then went to 5, then 6 is now come, going to other bands also probably future. So unlicensed spectrum is key to the success of Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi is key to the success of 5G and 6G. Because if the download capacity is not there, what's the point? In the last mile, in the mobile spectrum, if you have got a high download capacity in the last mile from the device to the tower due to 5G or 6G, but it gets stuck or congested due to lack of download capacity, what's the use? So the whole thing is a failure unless you have this, and that needs to be taken care of. Like I said, broadband in India is 98% on mobile. Over the years, it has been great to have a mobile first country. As one involved in mobile from 94, I'm very proud of it. But this has also over the years become a lopsided development. without a concomitant development of the fixed or the Wi-Fi. It has progressed only on one front due to various constraints. And because of that, the penetration is only 50% or so of broadband in rural areas. One might hear of 700, 800 million broadband connections, internet connections. Please appreciate they are connections, not users. Unique users, everybody now has got 2-3 devices. I have got half a dozen connections in my home of broadband. So like that, if you take the real unique users, probably 50% or even less. And we need to go a long way, particularly for the rural areas. And that's a big, big target before the government. You would have heard the secretary talking about it even yesterday about how the BharatNet has been taken now to 1.71 lakh villages and much more is being done. So that penetration is one area which we need to address. Secondly, even where penetrated, you know, you are using it. Broadband speed at many times is a huge challenge. And all statistics, credible, reliable statistics of TRA and other international agencies shows that we are just about a third of the global average, maybe a fourth also, between a fourth and a third of the global average, very low. So that is not acceptable for a country which is aiming to be one of the top 10 digital. We have to improve penetration, we have to improve speed. And the limitation is entirely because of mobile broadband has its limitations by virtue of physics, by virtue of licensed spectrum. We need more unlicensed spectrum to complement the licensed spectrum in all these new bands, whether it is 6 gigahertz or 60 gigahertz V band, etc. And the benefit to India is humongous. An independent study by Professor Rekha Jain of IIMA, and she is now with ICRIA, the research agency. The economic value of Wi-Fi spectrum for India, unlicensed Wi-Fi spectrum, could be a total of as much as 12.7 lakh crores. INR 12.7 lakh crores by 2025. And even that is assuming only availability of V-band and 6-band after 2023, 2024. So hardly 1-2 years of usage. So going forward, it will be snowballing into even higher figures. It's a huge benefit to the country, a huge economic benefit, plus social benefit. So this is what we need to make true. And it is not just Wi-Fi, it will also exponentially grow the short-range devices. There are so many short-range devices required in telemetry, in other areas, in medicine, healthcare. I think there is, if you look at the HC document, standard document, you'll see hundreds of new applications are coming every day. So this is a very huge opportunity for you young engineers, graduates, professors, research. It's a big, big opportunity for contribution. Involved intimately in this is the delicensing of 6 gigahertz band, which I've already mentioned. I won't take time. It is that there is no other band which gives such a wide swath of spectrum like 1200 megahertz uninterrupted without break, and that will facilitate your 320 megahertz carrier, your 160 megahertz carrier. It will be fantastic for download capacity and reliability. And the 6 gigahertz we have proved through a special study that it can coexist as an unlicensed without any problem to existing users in Statcom and other areas. A V band is another such unlicensed spectrum band, which you might have heard of. It's a very unique band. In every spectrum, as you would all appreciate, people look for coverage power, its ability to go long distances. But here, this band has a peculiar characteristic. The oxygen in the atmosphere eats up, absorbs the spectrum so that it cannot go more than a few hundred meters. And that is applicable over 86% of the band. It's a 7 gigahertz band, 57 to 64. Most of it, 85% or more, are affected by this characteristic. You might think that is a negative. Yes, it's a negative if you are looking for long backhaul, but it's a tremendous advantage if you want to use it as a powerful Wi-Fi. And because it is high frequency of 60 gigahertz, its data capacity is enormous. It's often referred to as wireless fiber because it has got fiber-like capacity up to 20 gigabits per second, point-to-point, point-to-multipoint links. So this is a terrific band that India must also go for. Deployment use cases are in campuses like yours and research campus, in building, front hall, back hall with 5G, short range devices, so on. And that is delicensed everywhere in the world. Now, talking of spectrum, I would also like to add one more thought. Our great NDCP policy of 2018 also emphasizes it, that because spectrum is a key resource for public benefit, you have to facilitate excellent research, free research and development in that. And special rules were there. All the years it was very difficult to get spectrum, even for just doing a pilot test. But now it is possible through Gazette notification on 29 July 2019. Government has facilitated the allocation of spectrum for R&D. And this should be of interest to you all who are students and researchers and professors for a very nominal one-time license fee of 5,000 rupees. So if you want to develop an SRD, a short-range device, if you want to develop a new application, you can easily get the spectrum for that. And it is established. It is also proposing to establish a system of regulatory sandboxes, confined areas where you can use your thing at will without any limitations. So all this is on the card from the policy side. Coming to my next subject, I would like to talk about private networks. We are all talking about 5G. We know 5G is a terrific development. It's coming. We are probably 1-2 years already late compared to other countries due to other reasons. But we are now knocking on the doors. Trials are going on. We hope to have the auction sometime later this year, end of the year maybe, and roll out within a year or two. But as you know, from 3G and 4G, it takes 5 years to roll out large networks, minimum 5 years. 5G, can we afford to wait so long for public networks? We need not. What India needs to do is to do what other countries are also doing now. Use 5G for private networks. While the public rollout is happening, you can take 5G spectrum and use it within a campus, say the Ramachandran campus or Deshbandhu campus or AIMS or Hero Honda or Maruti Suzuki, so on and so forth. You can use it in particular campuses to improve the digitalization of the activities there, to move towards Industry 4.0 in manufacturing, to do higher order research and teaching. So it's a fantastic idea which already implemented in many countries like Germany, France, Netherlands, UK, USA, Japan, Australia, Hong Kong, etc. And why? Because in a campus thing, you don't need to auction it. There's only one user, so there's no need to auction. It's not, and it can be used only in the campus. It cannot be used with the customers, outside customers. So it's not a public telecommunication. So there is no hassle about auctioning it. There's no hassle about security and all the safeguards required in a public network. So it's very easy to do. And they are doing it. And you know, there is a seaport, a port in Italy called Livorno, where they introduced 5G for their logistics of management of movements within the thing. And that has shown the way to up to 150% increase in return on investment by making operations so much more efficient. So that is something which India needs to do in in many areas, in healthcare, in transportation, in our ports, whether it is Jawaharlal Nehru Port or Chennai Port or anywhere, it can be done. It can be done in hospitals, whether AIMS, Apollo, whatever, in research institutions like IISc or elsewhere. So it's a very, very ripe product. And it will give a boost to Atmanirbharta and Make in India. So this is something which we need to recognize and push from all sides. Spectrum for private 5G networks, or since it's used only in the thing, I've already covered this. I think I don't need to spend. No auction necessary. It's easy to allocate it. And amount required also, ladies and gentlemen, is only about 50 to 100. Like for public use, you are talking of several hundred megahertz, 1 gigahertz like that per operator. Here you're just 50 to 100 for that entity. So it's a great thing to do. We should do that. I won't spend time on that. Now I'll get to it because I don't want to bore you all too much. It's already about 40 minutes. My next section is on Statcom, satellite communication. This is again a very big thrust area for Broadband India Forum. Statcom did not get the attention it deserved for a long time, till the recent few years. Last 3-4 years is picking up momentum, and particularly last year and this year, government is giving a big thrust to it. See, one look at this comparison shows our position as regards satellite communication connections, where we stand vis-a-vis other countries. We are very lowly placed. India ranking is less than 1/3 that of Asia. It is 1/20th of Europe, 1/70th of US, and compared to the world average, even it'd be very, very, very low. So this again, like public Wi-Fi, shows what a huge opportunity there is. And many small people, entrepreneurs are getting into it. You'd have heard in Bangalore and elsewhere, people have started working on private satellite contributions, and government is helping, is facilitating it. ISRO is welcoming it. Even today, there was a statement by ISRO that they welcome private space activities. So this is an opportunity area for all of you. And we need to go a long way in advanced Satcom technologies. We have been predominantly on LEO and GEO all these years. And they have that place. They are very, very important. But the latest advancement is one of LEO, low Earth orbitals, which orbit at an altitude of, in terms of time, 88 minutes to 127 minutes. And so more cycling, more satellites are required. There is a lower latency compared to the others. It has got its big uses in terms of broadband delivery and for IoT. And you would have heard how in India now, we've got OneWeb, Bharti. Bharti has gone into OneWeb for low Earth or LEO satellites. Starlink is also entering India. So a lot of, and Tata Nelco has also come into India in association with the foreign operator. So there are things happening on this front. There is a Kuiper happening. You'll soon see half a dozen operators, at least in this space, where there are nobody yet. And this is going to enable satellite broadband delivery to the rural areas. Because for rural areas, if you want to go, we have to roll out a lot of fiber, very cumbersome, set up a lot of towers, very hostile terrain, very difficult to maintain. Satellite doesn't require any tower, doesn't require any fiber. It just directly beams onto the gateway, or short distance only you need. So it's a very useful technology, and cost also becomes competitive when you go further away from urban areas compared to conventional. We have made submissions on draft Spacecom policy, which was issued about a year ago, and that's under consideration by the government. We are hopeful that they will soon come out with a new version of the draft, the final space form policy. That sort of completes my talk about, I think I've taken about 40 minutes or so. I didn't want to take more because, ladies and gentlemen, one has this much of an attention span for these things online. And an online thing can be more fatiguing than the general. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we see, and concluding remarks, I would say, one thing is eminently clear. There's absolutely no doubt. Connectivity does not mean voice connectivity. That's what I've been referring to and saying again and again. It does not even mean low-speed net connectivity. Everybody is demanding an always-on high-speed connection. And that's essential for high-quality work, education, learning, and for societal interaction. So thus, digital connectivity is the most powerful enabler of transformation for a nation of 1.3 billion people in transforming them to a knowledge society. And that was a dream of our former president, who is a hero to all of us, President Abdul Kalam. So that is what we need to, he spoke about it 15 years ago. This is what we need to have as a firm goal before all of us and help government make it happen. Because this government is pushing enormously in this direction. Every day, some new initiative is coming up and it's taking giant strides in the march towards it. So all you young students, researchers, teachers, professors, and associates can help realize these national goals. I wish you all the best and thank you very much for a patient hearing. I will conclude with this now and hand over back to Vipin. But if you've got any questions, my colleague Devashish, who is the technical brains of BIF, is here with me. So anything involved, he can also step in. Back to you, Vipin. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And I want to tell everyone that we also participating in these private 5G things. We have set up one private 5G lab in our college itself. And we have done MOU with Magma Core. This is again open source foundation where they are building all the open source private 5G things. And also we have done, like Prakash can tell you more about this, ORAN as a standard body. It means we are working to collaborate more on the standard bodies parts and open source part, so that we can develop at least in the research bodies. And good to see, sir, that we can get some spectrum as well as in 5,000 rupees. This is the first time.
You should be able to.
Yes, sir. This is a great information, sir. Definitely we will apply for it. And this is the good opportunity for us to know all these facts, right, as a research body.
If I may interrupt, Vipin,
yeah,
you should be aware that actually the TRA has launched a consultation on this, on private networks for 5 spectrum for 5G networks. That currently one, you should make a detailed submission to TRA. We can help you do that.
This is important.
Share our submission with them.
That's important, sir. That's Prakash was also in long back is like a more in the open source guy. He was like a member board of directors in OpenStack and other foundations. So this is a great opportunity, like this forum, Broadband India Forum, universities and open source collaborating together, standard bodies, and making something good for India. That is the vision, sir.
Regarding this. Happy to help you.
Yeah, thank you.
That is our vision. So we can help you. We'd be very, very happy to do that.
Sure, sir. Prakash, questions?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, TV Ramachandran. I spelled wrong earlier. Sorry for that. Now coming back, your presentation.
Srinivasan happens to be my uncle.
So it looks like it's all in the family. So coming back to the presentation was really fantastic. It exceeded all our expectations. To put it this way, trying to find solutions for this problem for last 2 years, Vipin, myself, Gokhale, and others who have been struggling, we didn't find a clue. Where do we get the answer to this? And sitting here in 1 hour, we got answers for all our 2 years effort. If we had walked into that Broadband India forum earlier, probably we would be sitting with one more of a whatever that PM-WANI is aggregator at many places. And of why 109? Why not more? We can add a couple more, and then we will definitely be fortunate to have that. So let me start few questioning and thinking. This is a think tank session, and you have brought so many aspects of digital transformation, not just connectivity in a different manner, like satellite communication you brought in. Most of the people are excited about mobility and they will do anything to get mobility, but they don't realize you don't need 80% of the time mobility. All you need is a Wi-Fi. And and to add it to that, when I heard about V-band, I am a communication engineer, but I don't know about V-band. Can you believe it? And so I want to hear from Debashish, what is this V-band? Tell us something. It's so exciting. I think I will push all our cylinders to get that V-band. Go ahead, Debashish.
Over to you, Dev.
Thank you. Thank you, TV sir. I sort of echo the thoughts mentioned by Mr. Prakash Ramachandran. It was an excellent presentation and an excellent learning for me as well. Thank you, Mr. Ramachandran, and thank you, Mr. Vipin Rathi, for giving me the opportunity to answer this question. So V-band is in the spectrum hierarchy is called a millimeter wave band. So as you know, spectrum in the higher bands beyond 20 gigahertz is known as millimeter wave. So we start with 26 gigahertz, which is the KU band, and then we have 28, which is KA band, and so on and so forth. So V-band falls in the millimeter wave band category, and it is classified, it is in, as TV sir mentioned in his presentation, it is between 57 to 64 gigahertz. That's the classical V-band definition, though V-band as is nomenclated, as is defined by some other administrations across the world, it goes even beyond 64 to 71 gigahertz. So that part is called the upper V band, 64 to 71, while the 57 to 64 is the lower V band. The lower V band has this unique characteristic, as TV sir defined in his presentation. It's got oxygen absorption characteristic, which is absolutely unique across the entire spectrum of bands that you can ever that you can look at. It absorbs 86% of the lower V band, has oxygen absorption characteristics, thereby it lends to shorter distances in which you can move. You can't send the signal across large distances, and thereby you can reuse the frequency at shorter distances, and adjacent frequencies can be used without the fear of interference between one signal and the other. That is the one great advantage that the V-band lends itself to, the lower part of the V-band. The upper part of the V-band has this, is just like any other millimeter wave band. It can go up to slightly longer distances than the lower V-band and can be effectively deployed if required for backhaul purposes. For example, for backhauling data traffic from the 5G POPs or the 4G POPs or the nodes back to the core network. And why do we say that this band is effective? The band is effective because, as you know, as the law of physics says, higher you go in the spectrum hierarchy, the better is the capacity that you can get. So the V-band lends itself to basically multi-gigabit transmission. So it is a very effective way of transmitting high capacity data from one point to the other point. and thereby it becomes a very effective way of using V-band for backhauling high data traffic, particularly given the fact that 5G is on the anvil, and we'll have very, very high capacity data coming in from the devices. So they will be can be effectively backhauled using the V-band from one tower to the other tower using the 5G V-band. So that in a nutshell is what I wish to say. TV sir, yeah, over to you, sir.
Lest there be some misunderstanding, the lower V-band, the conventional V-band 57 to 64, the bulk of it, 86% of that is subject to oxygen absorption. So eminently suitable for Wi-Fi, short distance reuse aspects. But the upper V-band and the balanced little portion of the lower V-band are what he is referring to as backhaul, as suitable for backhaul. Because in backhaul, you want longer distances. And when you have longer distances, then you'll have interference between Wi-Fi. So both go against each other. So the lower V-band is beautiful for Wi-Fi, for very powerful Wi-Fi of wireless fiber characteristic. And the upper one for backhaul for 5G. It's a small distinction I would like to make.
So thank you for the information. Additionally, I would just add that you have got the high altitude platform balloons, which is in the 70 used by Google. And so it's right. So we were not aware of the hidden lower V-band. And that's something very important for us and for university network, campus network, panchayat networks and all this. So I will just add one more question before we close. I think we are running short of time, but so one question I have is on the PM-WANI. How do you see PM-WANI being utilized by universities, and what do you think they should focus on to enable the private university networks and interconnect between them too in the private area? Is
Prakash,
that
I want to add one more question in
sure,
it
go ahead.
regarding CBRS, right? Means what do you think about CBRS? Because as a private 5G, as a network campus and everything, so means many countries have CBRS, but in India means we are not aware much on this. So could you explain more on that as well?
Okay, frankly, I don't know why CBRS hasn't taken off in India for long, but that's a different thing. But firstly, if I may try to attempt to answer Mr. Prakash Ramachandran, PM-WANI is eminently suitable for your requirements in campus. For example, if I were Ramachandran College or Deshbandhu College, I would apply for a PDOA. I would set up hotspots, collect all the thing, because I understand you are located in 2 campuses, right? And
Yes.
you can connect up all. You require more than one hotspot, so there will be multiple hotspots. You collect the hotspot, and then from the center you link up with either C-dot or a private entity. Private entities are all. C-dot is not the only one for doing that aggregate authentication and all that. That is subject to competition also. So you can take your choice in that. You can thus make full advantage of PM-WANI to cover your campus, PM-WANI, through multiple hotspots. Nothing to stop you. And there is no very easy
we are planning, sir,
in terms of like licensing.
Yes.
It's extremely liberal.
Even we are planning, sir. So for the software part, that's what we are looking into the OAI open air interface.
We're happy to help you to do that. Debu
Sure,
is there. Debu lives very close to you. He lives in CR Park. So
it's very near. We will connect, sir. Sir, but that's what our plan is, to use this open source software on the Wi-Fi itself, so that we can experiment and we can adopt more standards on the PM-WANI itself.
you can do it. Nothing to stop you.
Thank you, sir. And what about CBRS, sir? We are very interested in this.
I'm not an expert, so I don't know. I'll ask Debu and throw some light on that.
Thank you, TV sir. I'm neither an expert. I'll just masquerade as one for the time being. CBRS is typically, as in the US, it's very popular. So this has been in the C-band primarily. Most of the CBRS applications are in the C-band. Now, in India, the use of the C-band is typically been restricted to a large part of the C-band, especially the upper part of the C-band, which is 3.7 to 4.2, is with the broadcasters, with the satellite-based broadcasters. So there's a heavy influx of satellite-based broadcasting in that segment. In the lower part of the band, which has just been vacated now for 5G, which is the mid band, as they call it, 3.3 to 3.6, that part is, or 3.67, as the mandate has gone to TRAI for deciding that. So this particular band has been now kind of identified by the government for 5G applications. So since it is going to be public 5G utilized for public 5G, so effectively the C-band availability of the C-band for applications such as CBRS, etc., will perhaps not be applicable at the time, for the time being, in India, unless and until the government decides to move the satellite broadcasters out of the C-band, as has been done in the US, and then probably that band, if it is vacated and not given for public 5G use, maybe future CBRS applications could be thought in that direction. This is my very elementary thinking as a layman. Please don't take it as an I'm no expert. I must put that caveat on top of it.
So I'll add to it that sub-6 gigahertz is used in the C-band, but not the above 6. So the 6.75, there is some I looked into the National Allocation Frequency Table or something like NAFP, I think.
NFAP.
Yeah. So under that 18, we have got something. Under latest one, I think there can be some scope in the 6 to 6.75 or somewhere in that range, if we have a band open out separately where there are already devices, because you need to have devices before you can even use anything. So we don't want to go and reinvent the wheel. Where we can get in the 6 to 6.75, if we can allocate that with, I think there are some experts in the government. I wanted to speak to one of us, but I could not get time. But I think that is the spot we need to put the CBRS. CBRS does not mean citizens band radio is as per US. It can be ours also. It can be, we can propose to the ITU or whatever, to WRC, Wireless Council, to make sure that we get certain band reserved for citizens. And this needs some analysis, and I think I will come back to you on that specifically to see how we can go about it. And Vipin, we will be on that as one of the tasks, besides PM-WANI and besides the V-band, low band. So these three are the very, very prominent thing which Mr. TV Ramachandran and Devashish have brought to us. We need to put our force and heavy force on this, not only from Ramanujan, but IIT Bombay, IISc, wherever we can find the resources to push for that on behalf of India. I think.
Add one more thing, sir, for your information.
Go ahead.
IIT Delhi, IIT Roorkee, IIT Hyderabad, IIT Madras, all of them are IIT Kanpur, all are members of BIF. So we can get support from any of those for you also.
Fantastic. I did speak to IIT Kanpur and Delhi as well as Hyderabad, 3 of them, but IIT Roorkee I am not having any connection. So what we'll do is we'll try work together with Vipin being at the center in Delhi. So is Devashish. So we have got 2 people in Delhi who can coordinate, because you need coordination from Delhi. Without that, it doesn't happen. And the government side specifically. So we will, and the university side, obviously, because we have Ramanujan College there. So we will commit here on the air that we will do it. Okay.
And sir, our expertise is more in the open source foundations. That's our strength part is, right? We are in a lot of foundations like Connect, where we get a lot of open source things, and our students go to most of the foundations as well. So this is the good place, like where we have foundations, standard bodies, and forums and universities and private companies coming together and make something that is good for India. So this is our planning. That's what we can do. So means, of course, IIT is good in, let's say, hardware and thinking about these waveforms and everything. But for the standard parts and the foundations, that we need extra effort, that we understand, because in the open source things, once we go downstream, it's really hard to manage these kind of codes, right? And it's better to go all the time upstreams and open source. This is our plan towards this 5G and next generation telco stuff, even in the data centers and in the communication as well. See, sorry, sir, but we are running out of time, and thank you, TV sir, for joining us today.
I hope I didn't exceed my time. No.
Yes, sir, we need more time from you as well to talk more and to brainstorm more things. But for today, again, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Debashish sir, for joining us. And thank you.
Thank you very
Prakash,
much.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Have a nice day, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.